make sure that all the audio and stuff is coming through. Until then, we'll sort of go through our list of supplies, and hopefully you guys can hear me. So I got a couple of water cups here, and I got some watercolor paints. Awesome, thank you, buddy. Thank you. I've got a pencil, a couple of pencils, really, just in case. Regular number 2 pencil, an eraser. Some brushes. I like these little round brushes that come with the watercolor sets. We also got some of these that are really fun. These are like water pens, brush pens or whatever. Probably won't use those today, but have them just in case. And then, like a pen or a marker. This is my favorite one. I use this one a lot. This is like a brush pen. It's got a really cool effect to it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm real excited to be here. This is one of my favorite things to draw and paint because it's so easy and just looks kind of cool and dreamy or whatever. I'm gonna move that example aside and we'll get started. So, got a piece of paper. This is some heavier watercolor paper, but the paper that comes in the Art2Go bags works really well too. Just be careful about how much water you put on there. You don't want to paint a hole through the paper. And the paper that we use with at the hospitals is pretty thick too, so that usually works pretty well. First thing we're gonna do, grab our little pencil, a piece of paper, and we're gonna sketch out our shape of our fish. So I'm just gonna draw, my first line is gonna be a really long line. It's gonna be a little curve. I'm gonna start, pick a place down here. This is gonna be where the nose of our fish is gonna be. And then a place, maybe if you go straight up and to the right a little bit, maybe like a point right there. Now this will be the full extent of our fishy shape here. All right, so we'll start down here. Now we got our 2 points. We'll start down here and we're gonna curve. Make sure I got this right here. I'll put this right here just for reference. Curve out, out. And if your hand's a little shaky like mine, that's okay. The wiggly lines kind of give it a little character sometimes, I think. Curve out, and then we're gonna go all the way up here. That's our first line, real easy. Real simple stuff. Now down here, our first line, now down here, we're gonna curve it around. So we want a real nice rounded nose on our fish. Nice rounded nose, we're gonna curve it around. And if you want an idea of how far to go out, look at this. If you look up, straight line, it's even farther out than that other dot. So if we look at this straight line, we're gonna go out just a little bit farther than that. But then we want to pinch it in. So up here near where the tail is gonna be, we want it to go inwards. All right. You're going inward like this. Almost looks like a drop of water. All right. And then we're gonna flop it out like this way. Up here. Almost looks like a little, I don't know, like a horn or something. Like the end of a trumpet. Now, depending on how long you want your tail, you can do all kinds of funny things here, but we're just gonna connect these, make it a little wobbly line. Curvy lines. It's great. Looks like a little water drop or, I don't know, like a bag of money. All right. Now we gotta start thinking about these other fins. These other fins right here. So we look at, let's look at this dorsal fin here. This one in the back. So this is about halfway between the nose and our little bendy area. So like halfway between our nose and our little bendy area. I'll see this point, somewhere this point right here. Maybe a little higher, just for good measure. And we're going to draw a little wiggly line that's going to come up. Just like that. I guess that's not a wiggle, it's more of a wave. Call it what you will. Wavy line. I'll give you guys a second to catch up there. I know I have a tendency to move a little fast. All right, so we got our wavy line. Now we're going to do another sort of less wavy line that's going to go follow up this way. Stop just short of there and come up and meet this here. Again, this doesn't have to be precise. If you don't have a lot of experience drawing and your hands all wiggly and wavy, that's cool because this actually lends itself to that wiggly, wavy style. Can we get that officially put in the books, wiggly, wavy style? I don't know. We'll work on it. It's probably already there somewhere. In fact. All right, so now we've got our outside fins. I think they call these pectoral fins. All right, so let's see. This first one looks pretty low. Oh, maybe we should do our eyes first. Let's look at our eyes here. That way we can figure out where to put our fins. So our eyes, if I were to draw a little section here, let's say here's the middle of our shape. I'd say our eyes are going to be somewhere like right here. So let's do that. It's just going to be a little curve. Again, these are just reference. We're going to erase a lot of this pencil later on, or not if you don't want to. If you like the pencil, it's cool too, but I'm going to erase some of it later on. This is just so we know what's going where. All right, so we got a little eye. Do first a little curve line, and then this kind of shape that fills in most of that curve. I don't know if you can see that. Is that too low? What about up here? Somewhere in there. Play around with it. Find out what works. All right. So then over here, it's not going to be straight across, right? Because our fish is at a little bend. So we'll imagine a line that goes up this way. So our other eye is probably going to poke out right about here. Now this is the outer edge of the fish, right? So we want this eye to be poking out just a little bit out this way. Now let's figure out where these other fins go. All right, so let's look at our eyes. We look at maybe a little diagonal line that comes up this way. I would say our pectoral fins probably need to be a little bit higher. So we're going to go out this way. We're going to do this right here. Wavy line. Up top, I'll do another wavy line. And then we'll connect them with an equally and third wavy line. You can mess around with these fins. Put them however you like. Now this, again, we had this at an angle because it's our fish is sort of turned in a different direction. So we'll have a little angle here too, right? Imagine that line there. You don't have to draw it if you don't want to. Again, another little fin. I'm going to make this one just a little bit smaller than the other one. What do you think? bring that and play around with these fins a little bit. Make them look however you want. Watercolor koi fish are sometimes even better when they're messy. Because again, this is just about having a good time, making some colorful stuff, not stressing out about it. All right, so there's another detail I want to take into account here before we get started with the paint, because this is kind of important. So if you imagine the top of this fish, right, then the top of this fish runs kind of like this center line. Now up here, it does something weird. Over here, it's on the right side. But since there's this illusion here and the tail flips, this curve is now on the left side, which means that this is this side of the fish, right? And I'm only saying that now because it's something that we're going to want to think about when we're painting in the shadows and colors and stuff. So I'll kind of erase some of this to maybe make it a little bit clearer here. Erase some of these construction lines. Let's get this out of here. All right, so this is the top of that fish. This is the top of the little tail fin back here. This is our dorsal fin. And this, these two are our pectoral fins. All right. Maybe bring this one up just a little bit. Oh yeah, that's nice. All right. Now that is our sketch of a fish. If you made it this far, congratulations. It's really the hardest part of it most of the time, is drawing things out and getting comfortable making mistakes. And that's why pencils are so great, because you can always erase what you did and sketch over it. When I sketch, you'll notice I'm being real light too. I'm not carving into the paper because it makes it harder to erase and it causes like little indentations in the paper, which aren't a huge deal, but if you're trying to be all that about it, you know, you want to try to keep stuff like that down. All right. Now, in this example, we had ink around the edges, and that's what I'm going to do because that's the example that I made for you guys. So we'll move forward with that, but I want you to also keep in mind that you could do this with no outline and just use the colors to define the shape. And maybe if we have time later, we'll get to that, but we might not. I don't know. We'll see. Where you could do something more like this without that black outline. You could just, you know, really define the colors around the edges here and let the shape stand on its own, which, you know, looks incredible. And only takes a little bit of practice. So I'm going to grab one of my markers. I like my little brush pen, but if you have a Sharpie or, you know, a fine point pen or even like a ballpoint pen or whatever, colored pencil works fine too. Whatever you can get a nice, bold, defined line with. All right. So with this, it really doesn't matter where you start as long as you're comfortable following through with the lines. I'm right-handed, so I like to start on the left-hand side and work my way to the right. That way I'm not smudging my hand over everything as I'm going. This ink dries pretty quickly, but some doesn't. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I just want to very lightly come through and follow through some of these lines. These long curves can be a bit tricky. Just take your time. Again, it's a little wobbly. That's totally cool. Makes it look, you know, only the way that yours could look. We all wanted precise lines for everything. We could use computers. But what fun would that be? If you're doing this with line work, like I am, you can add little details in like that. It's almost like when you used to do like rays of the sun when you were a kid. Just kind of pull some of those things out. Something else to keep in mind is having thin lines usually makes things look like they're a little bit farther back in space. And if you have thick lines, it looks like it's a little bit closer. So, you know, if I wanted to make this look like it was a little bit closer, maybe I'd make that line just a little bit thicker than the lines behind it, you know? I'm not being too hard on myself about keeping these lines straight again. You know, nature doesn't work in straight lines all the time. Rarely. Oh, spilling stuff over there. I'll spin this thing around so I can get a better angle out of here. Sometimes if you can't move your hand, you can move the art. Go over my eye here, and I'm also going to go over my eye here. Filling in this forward area and leaving that back area just a little bit. Kind of makes it look like it's hidden under there, like a lip, you know, under a little ridge. Now, since I did those little flecks up there, we'll do some down here. Just real light. You want these to be real thin if you're going to do them. Just the accents, they're not part of the form, you know, they're just accents. That may be a little bit too much, but that's all right, whatevs. We're just having fun. What else we got? I think in that example we had a little inference of the scales there. We can do that. If you got if you're going to do this too, a real thin line works best because you don't want it to overpower the shape of the fish. These are just little curves, like little smiley faces, tiny little smiley faces linked in. I'm only going to do them down here on one side. I'm not going to get out of control with it. Oh, thank you. All right, so we got a pretty decent line drawing. If you got this far, then, you know, this is a lot of how comic books and things like that are made. You got yourself almost your first comic illustration there. Oh, what did I forget? I forgot these little two fins in the back. We got two little fins back here too. It's one of the reasons I love koi fish. Let's do our little fins. These are just like these over here. They're just mini fins. Same exact thing. And this one's going to be kind of behind this fin right here. Maybe I'll round those off a little bit. Go ahead and ink those too. I want to darken this eyeball up just a little bit. Just for fun. All right. Now I am going to go ahead and get rid of some of these pencil lines that I don't want to be affecting my process. All right, now you want to make sure before you do this that your ink, whatever you used, is dry. Most things like Sharpie and stuff like that dry pretty quickly. This looks pretty dry, so I'm just going to go ahead and risk it. Risk it for a biscuit. There we go. Just erasing some of these extra lines, getting them out of the way. And I can get a better picture of what I'm looking at here. Here we go. All right, I'm really excited about this. It looks cool. I feel like we should do a whole underwater scene. Maybe some Nemo over there. Oh, I can't. Can I not say that in the video? All right. All right. So now we've got our shape of our fish. This is great. This makes things a lot easier. We'll go ahead and start coloring things in. So before we get started with like the oranges and the crazy yellows and things like that that you want to put in there, we definitely want to work on a little bit of shadow, right? We want to work on some of the darker stuff. And for that, we're going to make a little mix. I'm going to mix it right here. Get a brush. And we're going to get a little bit of black. Where's my black? Some black. And we're going to add some of this blue here. And also, we're going to add a little bit of red. I got some purple. I'll just go straight for the purple. Oh, it's a nice color. Maybe a little bit of black. Woo, that got out of control. That's what happens sometimes. That's all right. One of the things I love the most about painting is making a little bit of a mess. And I know you've heard me say that 1,000 times, but I mean it. Anybody that knows me knows I mean it. All right, so I got my purplish, my black, purple, blue mix, right? Then I'm going to start figuring out where the dark areas on my fish are going to be. So let's say I'm going to start down here. Now we already used the scales down here to almost show that there's some sort of shading. So we want to really reinforce that. And get some of this paint on my brush. Maybe I should water it down a little bit. Water this down. My brush was a little dirty. That's okay. I'm digging it. Just gonna take some of this darker color, working in down here along the side. We're also gonna use this to define some of the shape down here underneath our fins, like right here. Just right here a little bit. Also, the base of our fins in here. I'm just really being very light-handed about this. Almost like I'm pulling the color down, right? I want it to be darkest at the base. Darkest at the base. If it gets too dark, you can always just rinse off your brush really well and use some water to smooth it out, to soften it up. Again, the lighter the paper, the flimsier the paper, the less water it can handle. So, just be thoughtful of that. Be mindful of whatever. You can also dab it with a paper towel like that if it gets too intense. I'm going to do a little bit of shadow on this ridge of the eye. To show that there's an edge there, right? Maybe a little bit down in there. And also down along this front part of the fish. Another area maybe right up here. We'll reinforce that thing we were talking about earlier where the top of that fish kind of twists over, right? So we'll just put some of this dark color in there too. Yeah. Oh, I don't know how the green got in there. It's all right. We'll figure it out. So that's kind of our darker shadow area. Right? Maybe we'll do a little bit down here where maybe this dorsal fin is causing a little bit of shadow on the body. I like that. I don't know where that green came from. It'll work out. It's looking pretty good so far. So you want to give this a little second to dry before you start adding in the warmer colors, like the orange and the yellow. You want to give it a little time to dry. Different paints dry at different speeds. I, of course, am still painting. I was trying to darken up just a little bit more black into some of these. Also, what I'm doing here is making that same scale shape with my brush for some of these, just to reinforce some of these lines that I did earlier. Right, going on top of them or right next to them, really. How intense or thorough, I guess, you want to be about that is all up to you. You know, the amount of detail that you put into something like this it's a choice, for sure. Just gonna rinse off my brush really well so I don't get any surprising colors in there again. All right. Now I know what I can do. While this is drying, I can start putting color on this side. All right, so we'll do like patches of color. We'll do like a patch here, and I don't know, like a patch here that runs. Let's see, we'll sketch it out a little bit. Let's say we want some color that comes up in this direction. You know, maybe goes back that way. And does something like that. Yeah. That's a great idea. These little color patches, I imagine, are like fingerprints on koi fish. You know, when you're doing the edges for this, you know, when you're starting to blob these things out, don't try to make it everything perfect. You know, these are like, it's like looking at the border of a country. You know, it's kind of jiggly, jaggly lines everywhere. Jiggly, jaggly lines and a wiggly, wavy fish. Since we're doing this today, I'm going to see if I can find a really nice yellow color. Let's find a nice yellow color. I like that one. All right, so cleaning off my brush really well. My paint should be dry. Using the clean water. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some yellow. It's bright yellow color. Let's pick out a bright yellow. What do you got? Let's grab which paint, which one of these million packs of watercolor paints here has the best yellow in it? Oh, I like this one. I like this color right here. Let's see and test this out. See what it looks like. Ooh, that is bright. That is a bright yellow. Maybe something a little less intense. Oh, I like that yellow. It's nice and warm. We'll use that one. All right. We'll use that, and we'll mix it up on this thing over here because we already made a mess over there. All right, clean brush. Getting a bunch of yellow, soaking it up. So you can see what I'm doing here. Just soaking it up, putting it right down there for sure. Picking out my spot. My paint seems like it's dried. Looking good, looking good. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and plop this yellow down where I want it to be. So this big area that I'm gonna cover here is where I want my first yellow to be. Just getting a little bit more water here. A little bit more water. Now I want to kind of work a little bit quickly here because when we add in the other colors, and when we throw the orange in here, we're going to want it to bleed in real nice. And if that paint dries before we do that, it won't. So let's get an orange here. Let's get an orange. Make sure it's nice and wet. And then we'll go in and start. Ooh, that's intense. We'll go in and start adding some of this orange to our shape. Here. It's just about finding the right amount of water to put on your brush. And since this yellow is already down, I am barely doing any work to blend in this paint. Just plopping it down and it's sort of spreading out, doing its own thing. That water is spreading it out real nicely. If you want to play around with how watercolors bleed out, I'll do a little spot over here, a couple little spots. If you want to play around with how watercolors bleed out, you know, a koi fish is a great experiment to try because the patterns on it, you know, are so interesting and they vary so much. One of the things that always fascinates me about watercolors is how there's this certain element of learning how the paint and how water and how nature, in a sense, behaves with just, you know, a gentle push, right? We're just putting the paint, we're just picking the spots that this paint's going to go into, and it's doing the rest. So let's do some more. Let's do another spot. All right, let's do a spot right up here. First, I add my yellow. I make sure there's real. Oh, there's my dog. Hello. Add some yellow. Right. Make sure it's nice and wet. Get a little bit of orange. Clean my brush. Get a little bit of orange. And dab some yellow, some orange into this yellow. Right. Now it's a lot of paint, so I'm going to go ahead and clean off my brush and dry it, and then use my dry brush to push around what's already there. Sometimes you don't, it's really important to realize when you don't have to add any more paint. You know, we all know, if you've done any of this, you all know the point at which you're like, oh, I put too much. And trying to figure out how to go backwards from there can sometimes be a challenge. Sometimes it's just easier to start over. But, you know, if you can prevent that from happening in the first place, you are in good shape, my friend. Just a little bit more spots in here. A few more. I don't know about you guys, but I'm liking how my fish is turning out so far today. Hey, thanks, Tina. Thanks. I was trying to pull up the Facebook live on my phone so I could like see when there's comments and stuff, but trying to figure all that out right now seems a little bit more complicated than it should be. So I'm just gonna leave it be and worry about it later. Anyway, I'm digging how this is turning out. All right, so let's move on. Let's make a little bit more shape over here. Let's put some yellow. Yeah, and same exact process. Can water down my yellow, pick a spot, put it in there, rinse off my brush, dry it off, rinse it off, get some orange. For this, I'm only gonna need a tiny bit. Maybe a little bit more than a tiny bit. There we go. A little bit. Just touching my brush to the surface there. Letting the paint do the work. Letting the paint and the water make its own decisions. It's almost like management, right? You gotta kind of pick the spot where it's gonna be and let nature take its course to some degree, I suppose. All right. Let's see. Oh yeah, that looks really nice. I really enjoy this, and again, if you've watched any of these with me, you've seen me say this 100 times. Contrasts, right? Like, so this area right here is the part that's going to push that dorsal fin forward in space. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to keep this, darken that up a little bit, right? It's got that more of that orange in. And that way, if we, for instance, let's work on the fin a little bit, this dorsal fin. Let's put a little bit of this yellow in here. Let's say there's a yellow spot here. And let's say the spot has a little bit of orange, right? Keeping that top of that dorsal fin light is going to make it look like it's coming forward in space, like it's a little bit closer to us than that other, than this area right here. I don't want to do too much on that fin because I don't want it to disappear. Maybe just a little bit more up here. We might add some shadow in there too if we have more time after this, just to make sure it's really standing out. And a dry brush, and I'm just sort of pulling it through here to make sure we don't lose that edge. All right. Let's say we'll get a little bit of orange, and we'll do some more details on our pectoral fins here. Just like we were doing those rays earlier with the purple, we're going to do them with the orange now. Real light, very light. Very light. I want the base of these fins, just like we were talking about before, contrast. I want the base of these fins to be a little darker so they kind of disappear. Right. Yeah, I do want to put a little, I do want to darken that up. I'll let that dry a little bit before we do it though. Maybe some yellow here. Not too much. I don't want to make my lines go all the way to the edge of the fin. You know, you don't want to have like straight geometric lines unless you're going for a, you know, more of a geometric appearance. But I am not, so I'm just trying to keep it soft and gestural. All right, I think I'm going to get a little bit more of that dark color. I think that's the dorsal fin is dried enough for us to do something about it. Mix up a little bit more of my darker color here, and that was like a blue, purple, black. Let's go right up here. Another solution would be to come up here and make that, just make that line a little bit thicker with the ink. But I'm gonna try this instead. Just gonna darken up these areas. Let's get a little bit of this yellow on the tail too, right? Dots. I love the messy little dots of color on the fish. Now, if you want to paint this fish, oh, let's not forget about our little dorsal fins back there. Or, I'm sorry, our little, what are these called? I mean, Jill, you know what these are called? One of my trivia today. These little fins back here. Give them a little bit of color. Not a lot, just a little bit. All right. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to, while this is drying, I'm just going to go ahead and add some water around here. Now try, if you're doing this with me, try to be careful and not drag your brush into your fish shape. In fact, maybe it's better to let it dry a little bit, but I like to live on the wild side. So I'm just gonna wet this down a little bit. Just gonna wet this down a little bit, and then I'm gonna get some blue. Nice. It's like a, I don't know, it's like a turquoisey color. And I'm gonna bring some of this blue in around here. Now, because I put that water down, the color is bleeding out around the edges, right? It's bleeding out into that watered area, and it's making its own cool effect. Something I could not have predicted precisely, but you just kind of give it a little bit of a guiding hand. Just a little bit of a guiding hand. Oh, I kind of lost my fish there on camera, sorry. Flip it over and do the same thing over here. I am liking how my fish looks today. I'm pretty excited about this. I hope you guys are excited too. I hope if you've been following along. that you like your fish. And even if you don't, it's okay. It's all part of the process. It's all part of the process here. I'm learning. You can paint these fish whatever you want. So the color choices that I used for this, I had a couple of reasons. One, because, you know, koi fish are like the, you know, when you typically think of them, you think of these oranges and yellows and things like that. But also, orange and blue are contrasting colors, right? You guys probably already know this. They're contrasting colors. They're opposite on the color wheel. So having this cool blue color, cool in temperature, right? Not just cool as in like Jack Kerouac. If you don't know who Jack Kerouac is, it's a great Google. Cool colors, cool in temperature versus the warm orange, the warm yellow. You know, even the purple that we used for the shadow had a warmer temperature to it. It had a little bit more red in it than blue. We tried to dull it down a little bit with the black, but still there. Spreading out some of this blue. See, my paper's starting to curl there. That's all right. I mean, that's pretty much it. I might darken up a little bit down here, like on the on like the nose, like the up here. Just kind of gently bring in some more of this color, this purplish dark color here. Some of these, make some spots that are even purplish and dark colored. You know? Because they do, these fish have all kinds of different wild little shapes and colors on them. And you get the idea. You can go however far you want with this. However far. But this is a fun little exercise to help you get used to the way that watercolors work. Come on, focus. To help you get used to the way that watercolors work. I think you should give it a shot. If you didn't follow along today, definitely give this a shot. I'm going to put this on. Oh, thank you, Brooke. I'm going to put this on our YouTube channel, and it'll be available here on our Facebook Live channel. So if you do get a chance to do this, throw us a like and a subscribe and a follow and all that good jazz. We love hearing from you and seeing your artwork, and are so grateful for all of the support for all of you guys who help continue to help us bring fine arts experiences to the patients that we work with. So I hope that you were able to follow along today. I guess we're about 10 till 6, so I won't take up any more of your time. This looks like a pretty good time to wrap it up. And you guys, best of luck if you try this. Stay creative, stay motivated, and we will see you soon. Bye.